Hi, everyone. Just checking the sound this morning. We're not quite ready to start just yet. But if you're tuning in, that's great. Glad to have you with us. Could you let me know if you can hear me okay and where you're tuning in from? And of course, any stock requests, we'll try to get them off to you or get them in place for you. Please remind me to start the record button when we officially get going. I don't want to forget that. I've done that before. Thank you, Ken, for a few picks there. And Randy, thank you. Jeff, Tom says good in Ottawa. Now they're coming in fast and furious. Randy from Washago, Ontario. Wolfgang is with us from Ottawa. Jeff from Colorado Springs. Lawrence is with us. And boy, they're coming in really fast now. That's great. Ron from the San Francisco Bay Area. Our son Jamin did an internship in Union City near San Francisco for a year after university, and it was pretty fantastic. Thank you, Frederick. All is good. Linda from Mississauga. Sounds good. Looking forward to seeing you at the end of May for our 2-day. And Lawrence is in White Rock, so you're back home. That's awesome. And we have another Heller from Oregon. William is here. Bill, welcome. Sandy is in Bradenton, Florida. And Patrick, good in Calgary. Jerry is with us from Burlington area. And Bob, Fremont, New England. That's awesome. John from Montreal. Welcome, John. And Gary from Vancouver. Mel says the sound and pictures are great in Calgary. And Larry says all coming through 5x5. So it looks like we're communicating okay. And Joy from the Big Apple is with us. That's awesome. Dale from Calgary. Great to see you on there, Dale. That's awesome. Oh boy, I gotta do something here. Dan's given me quite a long comment or question. I'm not sure. Talking about dividend income funds in Canada. Globe and Mail, some of the top performers. Boy, okay. I'll do my best on that for sure, Dan. ZDV, XEI, XDV, VDY. So we'll do our best. Boy, we've had a lot of advanced submissions, which is great. Gave me a chance to prepare some slides and so on. It was really, really great to be able to do that. Ken has CRBF in Canada. That would be US, I guess. CRLBF, US, and CL. Canada. Okay, we're going to do our best to get as many in as we can. We got Roger from Milwaukee, and Andre is from Luxembourg. Dean is looking at a marijuana portfolio, and we had quite a few marijuana stocks submitted, Dean, so we'll be looking at some of those. Dave is looking at Keysight Technologies in the US. Keysight Technologies, US. That's Dave. Okay, we'll do our best to have a look at that one as well. And Gary is with us from Palo Alto. And Bob says curling season now over, so he's with us on a Saturday. And Bob from the Burlington area, one of our International Online Forum presenters, has had a terrific curling season, and we're getting over to watch the Worlds here. Unfortunately, not today, but we'll be there probably tomorrow. Hopefully, Canada represented by Alberta, will be there. It's been a great week so far, for sure. And Bob has BHVN US, BHVN US. Okay. All right. So we got quite a few picks. I think we'll get started and move things along here. Let me remember to click the record button, which I'll do right now. Oh, Dale, that's awesome. Came down to Lethbridge for curling on Monday. NMAX Center is a great venue. Yeah, and it's been really great crowds all week as well. So pretty cool. All right, so let's get going. All right, well, hello and an official welcome to everyone for our International Online User Group Forum for Saturday, April 6th. It's so great to have all of you with us, and so many of you from all over North America and really all the VectorVest countries as well. A lot of folks will be listening to the recording. We know that some of the time zones aren't really great for this. The Australia community members, subscribers, not as good, but some of them are here, and we're glad to have you with us. So thank you. And Alessandra's here from Dallas, so that's great. Terry's from Sarnia, awesome. Jurgen says, howdy, partner. All right. Well, listen, my son Jamin is actually running a road race today in Lethbridge, so he was not with us, but very pleased to have Manny Fayel with us, an instructor and support representative from our VectorVest home office in North Carolina. And please do type your questions in, and Manny will do his very best to answer them as we go through. Got the recording on. Thank you. Ravindra's making sure. It's a 6K run, actually, Alessandra. He's getting into that with the Lethbridge College and enjoying it. All right, so if you have a question or comment, here's the chat box to type it in. Click on the send button. And this should collapse on you to give you more screen space, and you open it back up with the orange arrow. So that's how that works. And I'm just going to make sure that it's, yeah, it's moving along. That's good. All right. So welcome again, everyone. Our purpose for these monthly forums: further your knowledge of the VectorVest system, share current ideas and strategies for making money and protecting wealth. And I think you're going to be thrilled with some of the stock ideas that I have received already from our members and some of their analysis techniques, I guess you could say. So very pleased about that. I was able to make slides for most of them. Some came in later and I wasn't able to get them in, but I think it's going to be great. We want to create opportunities to interact and share ideas with other members in our VectorVest community, and we're seeing that in spades today. Promote the meetings and activities of our VectorVest user groups. Every Friday you can go to the Views tab and look at the user group listings and see if there's a user group near you. And if there isn't one and you've been a member for a while and would like to consider starting one, we have a VectorVest user group coordinator that can give you the information you need. And then provide a forum for VectorVest investors who do not live near a user group community. So trying to look after everybody. All right. Mohammed says no audio. Folks, if you're having trouble with audio, you may need to close some open tabs, and you may even need to sort of close out the webinar and log right back in. Everyone else has it, Mohammed, so I'll ask Manny to, I just flagged it there for Manny to let you know that you may need to log out and log back in. Unfortunately, that does happen sometimes. Yeah, everybody else is letting me know the audio is good. And if my voice holds up, we'll be good. And once again, today we will be live streaming on our YouTube, VectorVest YouTube. And if you want to catch the recording quickly after the webinar and don't want to wait for me to send out the recording, usually I get it out tomorrow, the next day. But if you want to have a look at it earlier for anything that you wanted to review, just go to www.youtube.com/user/VectorVestMB, and you'll see an icon that looks like this, and that's where you'll find it there. We had a huge increase last time in the number of views on our international forum, so that was fantastic. I think it was about a 100% increase in the number of views. So we had a pretty low starting point, but it's building. This is the third one we've done. And you can see the note here from Brian, and I had another note from another individual this week saying how great it is that we're putting these on YouTube. John, depending on where you are tuning in from, we have our Canada Q&A and review, market review, every Tuesday at 12:30 Eastern time. But the links are available on the Canadian website, but nowhere else, unfortunately. So I'm not sure how we can accommodate you if you're outside Canada. All right, so we're going to go ahead. I've really shortened up the agenda here because I had so many stock requests and I want to get to as many as I can. And quite a few have come in already through the chat box. And this is what I find so exciting and helpful, is to kind of just hear your ideas and thoughts about the stocks you're following and how you're analyzing them, how you're finding them, that sort of thing. So as I suggest here, bring your questions, chat in your stock requests. We'll try to get to as many as we can, and then sit down with a beverage and a bite to eat, and let's just have an enjoyable Saturday morning here in Lethbridge, Alberta, and an early afternoon discussion. All right, so it's a beautiful day in Southern Alberta, and again, people are still coming in, so just to let you know, my name is Stan Heller, consultant for VectorVest Canada, and it's my pleasure to be your host and moderator today. And we have Manny Fayel, senior instructor and support representative in the background, answering your questions as we go along. So do feel free to chat them in. I'll just have a quick look up there and make sure we're doing okay, but it looks like we are. Just want to make sure, Manny, you can hear me okay. And there is that question from Mohammed. Maybe Mohammed's okay now. Oh, let's have a look. Oh, audio's back. Okay. So Mohammed is good. All right. All right. So a lot of stock requests coming in. We'll do our best. Sue Bass is with us from London. I'm not sure if that's London, Ontario or London, UK, but great to have you with us. And Sam from Montreal as well. So a quick risk disclaimer. We are going to analyze a number of stocks, and we'll do our best to give you the VectorVest take on it, which is very good, but only you know your personal situation and finances and risk tolerance, and there is risk in investing. So please do read through the risk disclaimer. We're just providing education today, not investment advice. Sebastian's from the UK. That's awesome. I love these forums for the international flavor that we have. It's pretty awesome to hear from all of you as well. All right, so let's have a quick look at our color guard. Boy, it's been a terrific start to 2019. The persistent pessimism that Dr. DeLito wrote about last fall seems to have dissipated quite a bit, although in his essay he did say there are still some bears out there, but perma bears, there's perma bears and perma bulls, and anyway, it's nice to see these bullish trends. Canada year to date, we're up 12.96, which is pretty fantastic. The EWC ETF last year really struggled and actually didn't beat the benchmark TSX. This year, it's up over 17%. So there's another ETF that you might want to look at. But our color guard is bullish. VectorVest advocates buying safe, undervalued stocks that are rising in price. And you can see we did have really a week's worth of uncertainty, consolidation where we didn't really go anywhere. And now we're back to some green. The MTI is at 1.21. So there's still room to move up on that. Typically, when we get up to 1.3, certainly 1.4, that's when we start to hit that topping level. The US VectorVest composite is up 15.07%, and it's bullish and lots of green showing up there. The MTI is at 1.54, so historically we know we're nearing that benchmark high. But as Dr. Toledo wrote about in the strategy section of the views on Friday, we did break out above a sort of a resistance area last week, and he's looking for continued bullish conditions. So we play the market the way it gives us, and right now it's telling us go long. Australia has lagged the other countries so far, 8.67%. Color guard is mildly bearish. We're in a confirmed up call, but we do have that buy-sell ratio weakening a little bit this week or at the end of the week, so we'll see what goes there. But just manage the positions that you own. There's no need to go out and start selling everything. Hopefully you set a stop price when you bought the position, and then wait for an opportunity to step back in when the color guard is bullish. In the UK, 9.95% year to date. The color guard is bullish. You can see the green showing up in the color guard. The short-term trend is this first column in the trend header, and then the long-term trend. Anytime the MTI, whatever country we're looking at, if the MTI is above 1, the long-term trend is up. So everything bullish on the UK. Singapore, hopefully getting a boost now. Singapore, Hong Kong, Europe and Australia even, from the US-China trade talks, which are looking a little more favorable recently, and certainly the US and Canada benefit from that as well, but some countries will benefit perhaps a little bit more. But Singapore also lagging along with Australia, 4.67% year to date, but we're seeing some green now, and we've got the confirmed up call with the MTI rising above 1, and the primary wave is up as well. So VectorVest is advocating buying safe, undervalued stocks, and when you get that confirmed up call, that's when you want to sort of complete your portfolio to the best you can, especially your long-term portfolio. Europe, 13.27, bullish right now, lots of green showing up in the color guard. The MTI is quite elevated at 1.55, so use a little bit of caution there, but take advantage of what the market is giving us, and it's bullish across the board again this month. And then finally, Hong Kong up 14.5%, right behind the US in terms of market performance overall. Lots of green, although 3 yellow lights on Friday. Oop, I've got April 4th there. I wonder if I wasn't updated completely. Let me have a quick look. Well, I've got April 4th here. I'm not sure if someone can let me know, but that's what I've got. And I just opened this Hong Kong database, so maybe the 5th and 6th aren't up there. I'm not sure. All right. And Manny's answering a lot of your questions, so that's fantastic. But anyway, things are looking good all across the board. Okay. All right, got to move along. This is actually last month. I didn't do an update on that. I just kind of ran out of time. But let's, whoops, that's Canada. Let's grab our US database here. And so these are all those global ETFs. And if I do a quick test of all 40, whoops, I don't need to expand that, and run the date calendar back to December 31st. So it'll open positions as of January 1st. And that way we can get our year to date. And so Greece is still nicely up there. EWH, Hong Kong, starting to rise and truly outperforming the VectorVest composite, which you see. And then we have the NASDAQ and Wisdom Tree shares, the BRIC countries. Keep an eye on FXI with China, up 17%. So this is a great list. So you can hopefully make your own list, but this is a nice tracking list. And this month, even India is showing positive returns. So it's coming along. Oh, thank you, Mike. Mike is letting me know April 5th is the Qingming Festival in Hong Kong. So they did have a holiday there. Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. All right, so that was the latest date. Okay. So looking at the market timing for the strategy section for Canada, the price of the VectorVest composite did hit a new high. So we really have rallied from this bottom. But just note our other key indicators continue to hit lower highs. So they're rising. The MTI is rising, buy-sell ratio is rising, and the RT is rising. But while price has hit a new high from this low, the indicators have not. So that's a bit of a bearish divergence. So VectorVest is saying, even with the three green lights and an up situation, these are signs that we should still use caution. The other caution I would say to you, I really like this RT kicker combo for sort of the defensive side of things, especially. It uses the RT moving averages to gauge the trend and momentum. And when we start to see clusters of these red triangles on the market, that's often a sign that momentum is stalling and we could be headed for a little bit of a downturn. So this looks eerily similar to what we're seeing or what we saw earlier. So it kind of, if I look back here, you know, it kind of pulled back, went up a little bit, sort of a last hurrah, and then we started to see some clusters in earnest, and then we pulled back. So it's not always the case. We could just keep rising. The MTI's got some room to go, but we'll see what happens. Okay, and then I did want to let you know this is the essay I wrote about how to achieve consistent performance. And the main message there is you need to have a simple and effective trading plan that you can execute with confidence. So this is one of the foundational topics that we'll be presenting in Toronto to guide everyone to create your own personal plan. And once you have that, you really do get peace of mind because you have the power of knowing when you're going to sell. It's probably never happened to any of you, but it does happen to a lot of investors where you kind of go by gut feel and emotion, and when you're looking at your stock and you're seeing the price fall, you really don't know when you're going to get out. You feel kind of powerless, and too often what happens is you allow your winners, you sell your winners and allow your losers to keep going because you just don't have a plan for when to get out. So we teach the trading plan and the mindset you need to actually follow the trading plan. We've got a great lineup of instructors covering the whole gamut of trading to investing with Ray Clark, our VP Educational Services, Steve Chappell, who's been to Toronto often, Director of Trading Systems, Jim Penna, who really has, he's always been a terrific investor, but he's really become the guru of retirement services, and so he'll be there along with myself. So this is all the details. All right, and then on the US side with market timing, the VectorVest composite broke that channel. It was into the upside, so this is the channel here that Dr. Toledo was talking about, and notice again, no RT kicker combos as yet. So you can see how powerful they are in helping identify a potential trend change. And I look for clusters, more than one, in other words. But we've got some room to go up. We've got resistance obviously up here, but we've got room to go up. And the MTI is pretty close to hitting a new high along with price. And the buy-sell ratio and RT are rising. So we had a very favorable jobs report Friday, and China's PMI is reviving, so things are looking up. Jeff, the essays from the other countries are not currently available to, it'd be a great recommendation, I think, to VectorVest to kind of have a website somewhere to publish them for members only. Everyone gets the US database, no matter what country you're in, because Dr. Toledo's essays are just so important. And you've got the historical essays as well. But there are some terrific essays being written by the managing directors of all the different countries. And I know I have the opportunity to read them because I do have access to the databases, but they're not available, unfortunately, to everyone. Great question, though, Jeff. Thank you for that. So this is Dr. Toledo's essay, and he talked about the power of earnings growth. And he talked about all the bearish beliefs and predictions. He called it the persistent pessimism that just engulfed investors last fall. And he said, although none of these predictions have panned out, things still were difficult last year. And FactSet is forecasting an earnings decline of about 3.9%, but that's from a pretty significant high, as you can see here, pretty significant high. All right, so the problem is that many people think of this as an earnings crash when it's actually just a decrease in an earnings estimate from a very high level. All right, so Dr. Toledo says his point is that even with the reduction of 3.9 in the analyst's earnings estimate, Q1 2019 earnings level was higher than that of Q1 2018, and remember the power of earnings growth. Any questions before we get going? Charles says, can you address the bearish divergence of RT versus price? So, yeah, so you're absolutely right. We have this bearish divergence right here on RT. Price is obviously going up. The bearish divergence is that RT is still hitting lower highs. It's actually falling, and same with buy-sell ratio. Now our MTI is coming along and pretty well flat, but this is a bearish divergence, Charles, right here. You see it on stock graphs. You see it on stochastics. I did a video showing how bearish or bullish and bearish divergences on stochastics are really the most important part, or certainly one of the most important parts of using the stochastics tool. All right, so that's the divergence right there. All right, any other questions? John says, when you look at the growth rate going down, is this a 12-month forecast? I'm seeing earnings growth picking up year over year in the third and fourth quarter. Well, we don't know what's going to happen going forward, but we do track it, John. And I should have mentioned the other part of Dr. Toledo's essay, which was to graph the watch list of the S&P 500. It's a watch list in our program, and from there you can put on the earnings per share, which you can see are just mildly falling, but the earnings growth is falling quite a bit more sharply. So, you know, Dr. Toledo is writing that we shouldn't be too concerned as yet. It's falling from a very high level, but we want to keep our eye on it. Okay, great question. Thank you. Bill, on the importance of stochastics, one of the important uses is to discover divergences, both bullish and bearish. So it's very similar to what we showed here. If stochastics is hitting a higher high while price is falling or flat, that could suggest a price movement to the upside. And then the opposite is always true. We learned that investing is always opposites. Steve, the forum webinars are available, not the Q&As. So that's just the way it is. I wish they were available. I know a lot of people would like to review sometimes. All right. So let's get into our stock analysis, because boy, did I get a lot of stock ideas and analysis requests, and they're all terrific. I think they're all some things we can learn from. And then of course today we've already seen some requests typed in. I did slides because I thought it might speed things up, and then we'll get right into the program and have a closer look. I did only get stock requests for US and Canadian stocks. If there are some other countries, I do have the databases open, residing on my Windows, I guess, and so we can have a look. But I think all the ones that came in were US stocks. Yeah, so Manny has answered Brett here, but he said mining stock Cantex in Canada is not tracked by VectorVest. It's moving up quickly this week. Could VectorVest add it to the list? So every Friday, as Manny points out, in the views at the top, you'll see a heading called Stock Requests, and that's where you'll find Angie's email. She's our database manager. Okay, so there we go. And I really encourage you to send them in. New stock requests right here. Let me just, whoops, didn't mean to move that. Did I just move that forward? So right here, new stock requests, Angie H at vectorvest.com. Great question. Love to get more stocks in there if VectorVest can get the data. And our main server or service is Thomson Reuters. Pretty good Canadian company for Canada and US stocks. All right, so let's move on and start to look at our stocks. I'm sure you're going to have comments and questions, and that's great. So our first one up, first one to send me, I'm just kind of going in order that they came in. Some came in even this morning, so I did my best. But anyway, if I didn't get yours in, I apologize, but time became a factor. But here's from Ed P. My pick for Saturday is PKI, bought on January 16th. I am seeing a bearish divergence on RT starting March 20th. So this is, again, one of those divergences. We have price over here at the right still continuing to go up, and RT hitting a lower high right here. So that's a bit of a concern. We do have higher highs and lower highs since December 24th. So basically what's happening is here's December, and it's really been moving up. There's been occasionally where we've had close to a lower low here, but it's really a higher low because we're even. So the uptrend is still intact, and it's still intact today because there's the top, there's the higher high, and there's the higher low. So I want to get the thoughts from everyone here, but my feeling is we're still in this channel. We're still trading to the upside. The uptrend is still intact. That's kind of what I thought about it. For Ed, he says, my exit price is the price breakout above that upward channel. Can the forum give us their take on it? So what do you think? Sandy said, maybe time to tighten stops. Laura says, stay long. Still going up. Don't buy at the top end of the channel. Wait for it to come back to the lower end of the channel to buy more shares. That's a great way to pyramid your position, is to buy at these sort of lows, add, start with an opening position and then add. Audrey says PKI also pays a monthly dividend. It does, and it continues to increase its dividend, and they just never miss a payment. Cohen says 3 and 8 is crossing, so use a bit of caution. So if you're a short-term investor, on a daily graph, the 3 and 8 crossing, if it's a swing trade, Cohen and everyone, that might be a bit of a concern. But if you're a long-term investor, at the very least, put the 3 and 8 on a weekly graph. Don't get caught up in selling too soon on a great dividend payer. I mean, your goal when you buy it is to hold it forever and let those dividends compound. An essay I wrote a couple of weeks ago was all about the stages of retirement for investing. If you've owned PKI for 5 years, your dividend yield is now around 16%, and it compounds every year. So you don't want to be giving that up just because of a short-term price movement. That's not the case for Ed. He bought it on January 16th. So he did buy a little bit at the high end of the channel, but it's worked out just fine. He's got a nice gain, and the stop price is quite far away from the price. What he's concerned about, if price breaks above this channel. So if we go back here, and the stock price is great, but I like to put on the 40-day moving average. So we'll just kind of show everyone again how to put on moving averages. So we just come up to the price area for a moving average on price. You can put a moving average on RT just by right-clicking in here, but I'm going to put it on price. So I'll right-click up there, add a moving average, and I'm just going to add the 40-day. There it is there. So, and then I'm just going to right-click on it and change the style. And whatever you use, just be consistent. I tend to use the blue for the 40-day. Just whatever you use, be consistent. And then you can save this layout up here. Graph layouts, save modify layouts, add new layout, give it a name, and then you can save it. All right, so we've got the 40-day on there. So a couple of times we did pull away from the 40-day, and it did kind of come back to the 40, and that may happen again. So again, you can draw your trend lines there, trend line there. You've got your 40-day moving average, and if price falls below the 40-day, that's when you want to consider getting out of that stock. There's the dividends. You can see they increase their dividend every year. Dividend yield, you know, it's over 3% even now after a nice price rise. All right, so then you can move forward from there. And we came below the 40-day. So if you haven't held this that long, that's your first warning. RT is falling. Price is falling below the 40-day. People that didn't sell down here, now that price is back up above the 40-day, they're anxious to sell here. They're kicking themselves because they didn't sell earlier, and now they're selling. So that drives the price down again. Then we have a bear flag, and people get encouraged, start to buy in, and sure enough, the price drops again. Okay, so it does drop a fair ways, does get the sell rating from VectorVest, which would have saved you some. And then a great technique to get back in is to draw your trend line like this, above the highs. And that would give you an early potential entry, or you could wait until you get back above the 40-day. And that's what Ed did, and then you're away to the races again. All right, so if you're concerned about it at all, you can tighten your stops, draw another trend line, take your 40-day moving average over here to the bottom right, and tighten it up. Maybe get to a 20-day. We're right about there. 23. Well, that's too tight. Make it a 30. And if price falls below that, take your profits and be happy. Robert is, yeah, Bob, he's thinking about selling if it breaks too far above this channel. That's often what would be considered a climax top. If it breaks strongly above sort of this nice smooth channel, it's a flurry of buying activity that drives price up parabolic at the end of a smooth rally, and then the sell-off begins. Not always, but that's typical. All right, listen, we've spent a fair bit of time. We won't be able to spend much time on all of them, not as much time, but hopefully you found that helpful, and thanks to Ed for a great starting one. And by the way, if you want to see what a monthly dividend pair looks like, look at all the payment dates. This is the dividend tab on the bottom left here. All right. And again, if I get up to current, well, the dividend yield is 2.89 even today, even with this price rise. All right. Okay, so here's POW. Robert says he's owned POW for over 30 years. So that's a great example of allowing the price and the dividends to compound over time. He says now they are having a Dutch auction tantamount to a price-controlled buyback. And I'm not familiar with this, so I hope some of you might be. He was wondering if we have an opinion or experience with the aftermath of stock price action after the auction is done. And, you know, I know with a price offering or a share offering, where the company's trying to raise cash, they offer share prices out there to a discounter at a price lower than the current price, and price is always going to fall. Okay. All right, but that's not the case here. So I put on David Paul's value zone method that he taught in one of our international forums last year. It's buying or adding to shares when price falls between 20 and 40. What I will say is you want to make sure price is still rising. You know, you don't want to just buy down here because price is between the 20 and the 40. You want to wait till the 20 is above the 40, look for a pullback into this zone, and then you can buy at a bit of a discount. Scott says the Dutch auction, willing shareholders submit a price they will sell the stock at The company then buys back the shares at the most favorable price for the company. Thank you, Scott. I did not know that. That's a very interesting twist. And Charles says you could check the news, and certainly Investopedia probably has some information as well. So it may work out favorable then. Scott, maybe you've got some experience with it. If shareholders aren't willing to put in a lowball price because price is rising, you may actually come out more favorably with an option to sell. And it looks like it's an option to sell, not a requirement. All right, so here's from Laura. She says, could we look at CCI and ABBV? And then, like a lot of investors right now, we're looking at those stocks in the ka-ching watch list on the US database. And Laura's looking at Momo and Tencent. So I just put on the Midas Touch, a 3-month graph. From Momo's point of view, we don't have all the requirements for a Midas Touch stock, but price is certainly rising nicely in a smooth channel. And I think it will be on the Midas Touch list very soon, as soon as we have a 3-month high in the 65-day stop price. The 40-day moving average of RT is rising nicely. So things look good from that point of view. Now, Tencent is rising nicely in this channel, and there's some buying opportunities at these lows. But just keep in mind the RT moving average is starting to lose momentum here a little bit. So you don't want to be buying right now up at this high end of the channel. Wait till it pulls back. Laura says, just got back into it at 33. I think you're probably referring to Momo, which is great. You're welcome, Robert. That's great. All right, so, and this, just want to quickly go over here and show you that graph layout. Okay, so. And I'll just, okay, so this graph layout, you just come up to the graph layouts, left click on it, scroll down a little bit. There's the Midas Touch, so it's preset for us. We left click on it. And if you're truly following the Midas Touch, you'll want to go to the 3-month layout. And again, notice we've got the 10-day moving average of the stop price and the 65-day moving average of the stop, and we want them to be hitting new 3-month highs to consider it as a momentum play with the Midas Touch. But I think we've seen before that if you're a little more aggressive and you see that the 40-day moving average of RT is rising and we get a crossover early of our 10 and 65 moving averages of the stop, that can be an aggressive entry as well. All right. Yeah, Laura's into Momo. She says again. All right. All right. And then again, if you make any changes to this, you add any moving averages, then go to graph layouts, save and modify, give it a name, and you'll have your color scheme and everything else saved for you. All right. And so here is CCI and ABBV. Which stock, I'm going to ask the community here, which stock do you like best, left or right? Just type in L or R. This is the Midas Touch layout again. Now, Crown Castle has just come through, you can call it a cup or a rounded bottom. And then we had the consolidation, and now we're rising. And we've got the 8, 20, 40, and 1065 all moving up nicely. Yeah, left, left, left. And Herbert says, well, left, of course. Yeah, kind of a dumb question. Wayne says, really? You have to ask? Yeah, but just making sure you're all with me. Yeah, and I got a lot of great responses. Some of them even more sarcastic than the ones I've read. Ron is asking, how do you exit a Midas Touch stock when you're making a profit? Again, you can weed the portfolio in the same way that we manage every other positions, using the 40-day moving average as an early warning, RT falling below 1, or you can adjust your stop price higher based on support resistance. Is a great way to do it. Oh, that was Victor that asked that question. Yeah. All right, so this looks pretty darn good to me. CCI is still moving up. It's not too extended from the 40-day. It's moving up in a nice orderly manner. So I think you gotta like that one. You know, just a really nice orderly pattern going on there. Whereas with ABBV, now Laura, I'm not sure why you're interested in it. It is turning up a little bit right now. Right here you see the moving average of 5 on the RT crossing below the 40 moving average. That's when you would exit. So you're trying to capture those short bursts. Here's another one. So you get a nice pop, and then you get out fairly early, but you still lose a fair bit of your gain, right? But you don't go through this. Okay, that's what you want to avoid. And Jack says ABBV is supported by the value line. That's great. You know, it was Mike Simonado who really brought to everyone's attention the benefit of the value line on your graphs, the My Three Friends layout. And I use it and talk about it a lot in our weekly Q&As because I think it's just so important. Capital appreciation, add the value. And you can see this is an undervalued stock. Now, I don't like the fact that the value is falling, but it is a significantly undervalued stock. So I would look for that to, I would look for price to start coming up to the value. One of two things is going to happen. Either value is going to come down and meet price, or price is going to go up and meet value. And then when you have a good earnings, so earnings, I would be a little bit concerned as well. It's also falling. So from Mike's My Three Friends, he's got 2 friends who don't want to go to the restaurant in terms of value and earnings. And he's got 1 friend who says, let's go here. I want to go to that restaurant. And Mike's rule is if I don't have at least 2 of my 3 friends going in the same place, same direction, I'm not going to participate in that stock. My 3 friends, Charles, are price, value, and earnings per share. So we love to see all 3 going in the right direction. I will buy a stock even if it's overvalued, if value is rising and price is rising, I will jump into that stock as long as earnings are also rising, even if it's overvalued. But if it's overvalued and price isn't rising strongly, earnings is falling, stay away. All right. How's it going, folks? We've got, we'll go a little bit past our hour and a half, but how are we doing? Is this enjoyable? Do you like this? Is there something different we could be doing? Just let me know. We haven't done this for a long time. Sue says helpful. Awesome. Charles says great. Okay, we'll just keep going then. George, I've got your stock pick in there. He says very educational. Awesome. Good. Let's keep going. I was hoping people would like this. We did this quite a bit on last week's Q&A, and people seem to love it. So we're just going to keep doing it. Here's from Glenn S. He says, unfortunately, not able to attend. Glenn's from Medicine Hat and also works in the oil patch in Fort McMurray. He and Ed that we looked at PKI with are in the same boat. But Glenn taking a little bit more pessimistic or optimistic view of DRIP, I guess. It's 3 times bearish ETF on the US side. He's considering it for a possible swing trade. It's getting close to 3 EMA, crossing the 8 EMA. Oil might be getting a little extended, and he's thinking the market could go either way, but it has continued to drop after hours today. So he initially bought a position on April 3rd right here, and then got stopped out with his 3 and 8 crossing on a 5-minute graph right here. So he did get out with a nice 3% gain there, and now it's really fallen back on the 5-minute graph. This is the 3-month graph. So on a 3-month graph, if you were thinking about entering the position, what you might do is, like we did before, just draw your trend line, and if price happens to get above it, then you might consider entering that position. But it's 3 times leverage, so it's not for the faint of heart, and only for a small part of your trading account. And you got to be in sync with the direction the oil is going. Yeah, it's Brant is right. It's a reverse or contra ETF. Okay. All right. So I don't know. I'm not sure why I picked mauve, but this is a 3 and 8 EMA. 8 is the green. Okay, so when they cross and you can see space or white space, that's when you would exit the position. And similarly, even on a 3-month graph, that's a 3 and 8. So you're waiting for the crossover to get in long. All right. All right, well, Glenn, you couldn't be here, but I know you'll be watching the recording, and thanks very much for the stock suggestion. So here's Eli, and he sent in the charts. He had a weekly graph on bots. So he's been watching Ed Subak's presentations in our forum on the thematic ETFs, I'm sure. This is the one for robotics, and you can see his setup here. He's got the 2 and 5 EMA. This is something that Bob Turnbull showed us in February. No, it was November. Is it that long ago? Showed us in November at the International Online Forum trading plan and strategy that he's using very effectively with the weekly graphs on triple and regular ETFs as well. A 2 and 5 EMA crossover, and then he's also looking for a positive ADX down below here. But his trigger is the 2 and 5 EMA on the cross. And then he's also got the volume, and we've got diminishing volume here a little bit, but still, you know, we're in the millions of shares being traded on this one. And then he sets a price target, looking at a previous resistance area and a higher resistance. And so he's got an initial price target right here, and then a longer term price target here. And of course, on a weekly graph, if the 2 crosses below the 5, he would be out of that stock. Frederick says bots looks excellent, going up and should continue. And he's also using the 2 and 5 EMA on the weeklies. So Bob has had an influence. Here's Eli with iPay. So this was an interesting one. He initially got in right here, and then ADX crossed, and we hit some resistance, and then he actually held through this sort of consolidation, and then got out here on the crossover. Not even the crossover, he just took profits early. By the way, he's got a moving average on volume here that's interesting as well. So it's a 40-day moving average of the moving average volume. So that's kind of interesting to see that. And then here he bought in, and it's interesting how often our entries align with the VectorVest buy recommendation. Not always if they don't have good fundamentals, but if they have good fundamentals, often the buy ratings come in pretty nicely with our technical setups. ADX is the average directional movement indicator. He's not using the trend indicator of the ADX line itself, but he is using the plus DI and minus DI. So just very quickly here, let's see, did I save this one? I saved a few of these. I didn't. Okay. All right. So let's use our starting point of the VectorVest default layout. That's this one here at the top right. And then for the ADX, we just come here and add parameter, technical analysis, and there's the ADX. Click on it, and you're going to get the directional indicators down at the bottom. And I really like the fact, even though he's looking sometimes, I think it's swing trades, shorter term trades, he's using the weekly graph, which is really interesting, an interesting approach. Okay. So there's iPay, and there's the ADX crossing above the 40-week moving average, I should say, as well. And then again, the moving averages, if you want to put on the 2 and 5, right click in the price area, add moving average. We're using the exponential, start with 10, right click, exponential, go to 10, and then down below in your graph menu, change the first one to a 2, which is almost like price itself. It's what Dr. Barbara Starr showed us. She uses the 3 moving average as a proxy for price, and it certainly cleans up your chart. So the 2 is not much different than the 3. It just smooths out the price somewhat. And then the 5 is a very fast, but they're on a weekly graph, so not as fast obviously as a daily. But boy, what nice signals even on a weekly graph. You know, when the market is in an uptrend, my goodness, pretty nice. Okay. All right. Bob says, I like to use the D's on the timing graph. Yeah, so you could certainly use it on the MTI graph as well. Yeah. Oh, John says, which stock in Canada is that closed-end fund that pays a 21% dividend yield and hasn't missed a payment? It's the second one from the top. I'm getting to it. That was a list sent to me by Jim M. out in Ontario. I'm not sure where it is in my slides, and I got to move on my slides or we'll never get through. And then I do want to get some of your stock requests in as well. So here's, I just put it on a white background just to show how Eli is setting this up. Oh, that should read 2 and 5 EMA. Oh my goodness, I put in 2 and 8. This is a 2 and 5. Okay, so I'll fix that up. All right, so you can see where it's getting in and out. And here's from John P. He suggested XLNX is making a really nice move, which it certainly is and has been. This is actually the 3 and 8 on this one, and the 20 EMA and the 40 moving average. And then I really like, even though it's part of the Midas Touch layout, I've really started to use the 40-day moving average of RT on just about all of my charts, just because it gives such a great view of the trend. Okay, so it really gives a nice view of the trend. And so you had 3 potential entry points. An early one where you had the moving averages of the stop price and the moving averages on price itself crossing. You had a pullback, and then you had a break above this double top here, resistance area. So this was another possible early entry supported by a buy rating of VectorVest. And then if you were more patient, you got another opportunity here when the RT moving average started to accelerate after a brief 1 day or 1 week hold here. And then away you were to the races, a 1 day hold actually. And this is what the 2 and 5 on a weekly. Really nice buying opportunities on a weekly. A couple of whipsaws, but not too bad. Okay. Bill, on the U.S. citizen trading the Canadian markets, you would have to set up a fund. I believe you could do that through Interactive Brokers or, you know, possibly the broker you're using now. Best to call them and ask. We have UK and Europe trading the US and Canadians trading Europe and so on, and US, and there should be no reason why you couldn't trade Canada. So here's ACI from Wayne D. So it's sort of a rejigging of AltaGas into the clean energy space, and it just really looks like a good position here. Wayne was in on March 11th, so a nice entry. Earnings forecast is already positive, pays 4.5 dividend yield already. So it's a new IPO on October 25th. Natural gas distribution utilities and renewable power, serves about 130,000 customers in Alberta and close by Western Canada. So worth a look, in my humble opinion, Wayne says, and it certainly is. So this is ACI. Okay. So here's the closed-end funds. So this is from Jim M. So this is Jim M. He says, what about looking at this industry group? Double. Oh, all right. My cat Ollie has just jumped me from the captain's chair that he usually watches, and looks like he's getting impatient. Just a second. Sorry. All right. Let him out. I guess he could only last an hour today. Usually he's pretty good for 90 minutes or more. But anyway, here's the definition from Investopedia. So like a mutual fund, a closed-end fund as a professional manager overseeing the portfolio, actively buying and selling its assets like an ETF. So it trades like an equity with price fluctuating based on volume and pricing and changes to the holdings. And obviously FTU is at the top. Folks, it's not going to give you 163% dividend yield. All right. But I was pleased when I looked at TZS, which is paying 21.82%, reasonable dividend safety from VectorVest, sort of above the average score. And when I looked at it on my brokerage site, if I can get back to where I was here, I noticed that it was making its payments on a regular basis. So it's only a $2.31 stock, but the annual dividend is 0.58, and it's been doing it. But cautionary note, anytime you're thinking about investing in a closed-end fund, especially for the dividend, you want to call the management team, speak with their fund advisor on that closed-end fund, ask about their future plans. Do they have any plans to close the fund? Look at their holdings, look at their dividend structure, ask a lot of questions. They can't give you insider information, but they can let you know what's going on. Nick, these are monthly dividend payments, and they've been making them every month for the last couple of years that I've looked at. Okay, 48 dividends here, and they've been they've been very regular. So it's just one to consider. I'm not recommending it, obviously, but thanks to Jim for raising the issue. These are the closed-end funds here in Canada, and the best ones come to the top. I'm sorted by dividend yield in this case. Fred says closed-end funds typically trade below their breakup asset value, so that's something to keep in mind. Wayne, I went to my brokerage site. Unfortunately, VectorVest for closed-end funds does not show the dividend payments. Let me just confirm that here. I shouldn't speak too quickly here. So you'll get to these. You can go to the sector, market, left click on market, double click, I should say. There's your closed-end funds, double click. And again, there's your default sort by VST. I changed the sort to DY. Oh my gosh, DY, FTU is now paying 177%. That's awesome. Just don't count on ever getting a penny of it. All right, that would have to be checked out. So with the other stocks in the database that pay a dividend, you can come down here and click on dividends, and you would see it, but here you don't. So I went to my brokerage statement. All right. Yeah, Wayne says he uses other websites as well, but likes the VectorVest view of things. Yeah, I haven't found any graph layouts and analysis better. I'm biased. I've been with VectorVest as a subscriber since 2003. Instructing since 2011, I think, or so. So part-time instructing, and I enjoy it because I believe in the product. That's my soapbox statement. All right, let's move on. Azo. So this is from Steve in Hong Kong. I'd like to know about a stock he owns, Azo, doubling as a way to learn more about the profit locker, which I am following model portfolio 2. So it's interesting, in model portfolio 2, they sold AZO last week based on reaching the 50% target. Steve has been holding, having to reset the Genius nightly so that it doesn't sell because he's getting the signal to sell based on his portfolio management setup. Okay, so it's been on fire. It's doing well. He doesn't want to get out. So my suggestion would be, well, I mean, I love the Profit Locker Pro because it is a little bit more customizable, I would say, than the Profit Locker itself. The Profit Locker is a 50% gain, 15% loss default, and then you can adjust the target and adjust the stop. Profit Locker allows you to set a greed level here, an ending trail. And by setting my ending trail to 5%, I'm able to stay in that stock, but not risk losing too much if it goes against me. You'll see the current stop price on Friday is $997, and the ending price on Friday was $1,048. So you would keep most of this profit, but it allows you to go forward. So I really like it from that point of view. There's 30-day trials on the Profit Locker Pro. My suggestion, as with every tool in VectorVest, try it out, diarize the date that you got to make a decision, or calendarize it, and then if it's making you money and you like it, keep going. Elaine says, if you're stopped out by P&L Pro, you can always buy back. Yeah, you sure can. And Steve's other question, if I go to portfolios, let's just go to this one, bank sectors. With the auto timer Genius off, I can go to edit. So you'll notice here, let me get, so you'll notice here, whoops. All right, what happened to my, I lose my mouse. Okay, you'll notice here, Steve and everyone, instead of closing the position when you meet its stop criteria, send the alert only. Okay, so go into your custom trading plan. And I'm not sure why it's not highlighting here, but just send an alert only. Maybe I got to have it on. I'm not sure. Manny helped me with that, but that's a great way to not have to cancel the sell order on a daily basis. All right, we got to move on. All right, so that's AutoZone. This I wanted to show because Wayne sent this in, and he took the master retirement watch list that we have in Canada. We created it as part of our Investing for Retirement course because it was returning such great stocks, and we wanted to give our course participants an easy way to find them. And Dr. Toledo suggested, well, why not make it available to all our Canadian subscribers? So that's what we do. We run 8 of our very best prudent retirement, long-term winners, and conservative searches, and create a watch list every Monday that's updated. So these are updated every Monday. Last week we had 27 stocks. This week we've got 22. But what Wayne did is go back and use a search with a filter on the watch list, and then ran these tests. And 34% annualized return with the profit locker, 32 with the VectorVest stop, 30 with the VectorVest stop, a different sort, and 28 with the VST sort. So pretty impressive results. So any of you Canadian subscribers, if you're not considering these stocks for your retirement, or you're not using one of the model portfolios that features some of these searches, such as the model portfolio number 5, you might be missing out. So go to the Viewers tab, go to Special Watch Lists, and here is the Master Retirement Watch List. And here it tells you what searches are used to create them every Monday. But if you look at the watch list average here of the recent stocks, that's what it looks like on 1 year. So what crash was there in 2018? We didn't suffer much, right? And so you think, well, yeah, these are all sort of buy-rated top stocks right now, but how have they done long term? Well, here's 10 years. Over 10 years, these stocks just want to keep going up. How did they do in 2008? Well, like most stocks, not as good. But Dr. Toledo and VectorVest gave us lots of warning to manage our positions more defensively here. They did recover, but like a lot of stocks, and this is why you need VectorVest for market timing, it took a good couple of years to get back to even, right? All right. So thanks, Wayne, for that testing. That was awesome. And this is using Mike Simonato's My Three Friends. And what really impressed me was the fact that value was actually rising faster than the price, or at least in concert with price all the way up, and earnings was rising. Just a great watch list, okay? Rob says, we featured the Master Retirement Watch List in our recent meetings in Nanaimo. Great resource. That's awesome. Thank you, Elaine. Yeah, Elaine says, quite amazing. Wow, it really is. They're just really great stocks. And it always surprises me, and myself included, I'm always looking for the one that's breaking out from a bottom now, instead of looking at some of these stocks that have performed well over many years. So here's XIT from Werner, and he bought this on January 9th. He could have got this a couple of ways. We had a new buy rating. I didn't ask Werner what caused him to buy it, other than the fact he thinks it's great exposure to Canadian technology companies. But it certainly was in a nice pennant here. You draw your trend line across the tops, and the buy rating came on January 11th, so Werner actually got in a little bit earlier. Again, this 40 moving average of RT, you know, you had a lot of up and down movement, but the 40-day moving average of RT was kind of telling you that momentum was still slipping on the stock. And once it started to pull out of that and rise, that was a great opportunity to enter. And price crossing above the 40-day was pretty great. BB BlackBerry, Ken, I've written that down. We got a lot of stock requests. We'll get to it. So XIT, thank you so much, Werner. Great idea for all of our Canadian investors. So here's Julian. He lives in Durban, South Africa. He really likes the 2 and 5 moving averages. So thank you again, Bob, on a weekly graph. Several ETFs were not leveraged. It's recommended only leverage be purchased. The strategy revolved around the 3 times leverage. That's a very aggressive strategy. I mean, you can see the results when it's going in your favor can be very, very strong. But if you're a little bit more or conservative or less aggressive, then nothing wrong with a regular or 2 times leveraged ETF. So here's RWR. He's asking if it's too late for biotechs and real estate. Well, you know, here's the biotech, and these green circles are when you had winners. Here you would have had a little bit of a loser. So look at what it's doing now, make your buy on Monday morning, and if you get a crossover to the downside, make sure you cut your losses quickly, and that's how you make money. All right, and again, yes, only purchase when the 2 is above the 5 on a weekly graph or end of week graph. So you're looking at Friday's closing prices. And the RT less than 1 is a contradiction to placing the trade. You could certainly look at that. Really, Bob was focused on the crossovers, but if RT is rising, that's in your favor. All right, so there's the technology side of things. This is the enhanced Pro Trader timing layout, just to give a little bit of a different look. So the 30-day weighted moving average still rising. Here's that divergence with the MACD. Works the same with stochastics. You've got a higher low here while your price is hitting a lower low. That's a divergence that's bullish, and sure enough, it took off. A little bit of a hammer candle followed by a real big one white soldier here. More indication with the market. So here's SPR. This is from Les out of Quebec, and he's saying they've just got a license here from a news release that allows their subsidiary to produce cannabis oil and related products. So they're into beverages, for example, and they're into this new way of diluting CBD and THC in water. So this has real positive implications for the cannabis industry. One to keep an eye on, newly placed in our VectorVest program. We're in a channel right now. If we break above there, this could be worth an opening position. And then Eric H. has been using the RSI2 strategy, both Canada and the US market, showing us some of his trades here. They're not big wins, but they're consistent, and that's what he notes here. Pretty consistent results. He started this after Jerry D'Ambrosio showed it in one of those Trade Like a Pro kind of a workshop sales webcast, but he gave quite a lot of the details. He didn't give a search. That comes when you take the course, so I can't show you that, but you can probably see a way to create it yourself if you like. So let's just quickly go here. So let's see. I think I want the U.S. side. Thought I had it. There we go. So the RSI2, they'll have another webcast on that again. But if I come up here, I've saved the layout. Sure I did. Okay, maybe I didn't. Oh, I did. No. Okay, I didn't. So if you add parameter, technical analysis, and there's the RSI, and the default is 9 on the RSI time frame. We're going to change it to 2. So it's going to get a little busy. Okay. And we're going to add moving average simple of 200. So before I check the 200, I want to bring this up to the 200. So you want the stock to be above the 200-day moving average. Jack says, took the pros course in North Carolina, Trade Like a Pro, and says it was great. That's awesome. You know, if you just get 2 or 3 trading ideas that you can consistently make profit with, it makes it very worthwhile for sure. Okay, so there's the 200, the 2. and EMA price of 5. So when you get a cross below, you would start to consider entering as long as you're above the 2. Let's see, we don't have a setup there. So you're looking at a setup back here. You're back in and away you go. Okay, so save the layout once you've got it and away you go. Eric's got his graph set up. Yeah, perfect. Once you're set up, you don't need all this other stuff. You don't need RT. You're just looking for the RSI 2 to cross below 10. So this would be a setup if we were above the 200-day, which we're not. So here we're below 10. We're above the 200-day. Let me zoom in here. So you would be buying in at the close. Probably you would be buying in right here if you're following the trading plan. Close price was 40.91, and then you sell when it gets back above. And 40.91 to 41.57, so you've made about 56 cents, something like that, and you'd be out. Okay? And no cheating. You could decide to hold longer and to make even more, but that's a different trading plan. Yeah, RSI is relative strength index, Lawrence, the relative strength index. All right, let's move on here so I get to some of your questions and so on. So here's an example right from Eric's settings. So this is the 2, the 5, moving average of price. Actually, I had an EMA on that one. It's the MA of price, and the 200, and there's your entry, and there's your exit. John M. from Ireland is looking at the marijuana space here in the US. These are some of the stocks that he likes, and he's looking for takeover targets. IIPR is probably the smoothest looking chart of the marijuana stocks. And Ericsson is in the US database for the 5G space, so it'll be in that new 5G watch list that Dr. Toledo created for all of us on the US side. All right. Yeah, so, and FDA approvals on some of these can really spark price. So I like to look at the industry graph, and when price is above the 40-day moving average on the healthcare marijuana stocks, that's a great time to consider buying the top stocks. And again, the sort is that Dr. Toledo has shown in study after study, RS times CI for those marijuana stocks is a great sort. Here's John's other stocks. You can see the graphs, and most of them are starting a new uptrend. This is right from the full stock analysis reports. Here's Kirkland Lake. George was asking, he would like to submit Kirkland Lake. He bought it on February 26th. At the time, VectorVest showed me that everything was rosy. And it was. I mean, here's February 26, RV 1.24, relative safety 1.38, comfort index 1.73, strong earnings growth, etc., etc. As you know, KL has pulled back since, and he's wondering if there were any indicators that he might have missed that would have warned him against the stock. So, anyone? What would you say to George? He bought right here. Right here. Anything that might have caused you to wait or not buy at that time? Yeah, Doug says the RT, RFL RT. Barry says crossing below the trend line, so, or at least coming back to the trend line and then looking for a bounce would have been better than buying at the top of the trend line. It's pulled away from the 40-day moving average. Not too bad. I mean, it's not extended like crazily above the 40-day. This blue line is the 40-day. So it's not crazy that way. It's really just the channel and the divergence with RT hitting lower highs. Somebody's mentioned that as well. Yep, top of a channel, Malcolm says. Joan says top of the channel, looking, needed that pullback. Leonard says bought it much earlier, got stopped out when it dropped below the 40-day. Hey, you followed your plan, Leonard, and you made money. That's awesome. David says after a sustained run, it's always a bit more risky to buy. Your time might be shorter. You know, we always say in VectorVest that there's always a last buy rating, right? So here we had a very similar situation, top of the channel. This is where George would have bought right in here. And then there's a last buy, it goes to a hold, and then there's a sell. And I always have new subscribers say, well, it was buy rated when I bought. Well, it's been buy rated for several weeks. And so it's getting a little bit extended. You've got to look for a pattern now that will cause you to come in. That's awesome. Barton is noticing big volume down day as well. I didn't have volume on here, but these are big candles. So I suspect you're right, Bart. Big volume down days. And Lan says we had a double top. Pretty close. What we really had was a break of the upward trend. So we were hitting higher highs and higher lows all the way up. And then right here, if I get my pointer out, right here, we hit a lower high. And then we hit a lower low. So the uptrend was broken. And it still is to a certain extent. It's still broken. If you're buying now, you're an aggressive buyer. You do have the buy rating from VectorVest. So you're being aggressive. You would like to see it establish higher highs and higher lows before stepping in. But you want to keep your eye on it because it is coming back. Yeah, going down, Rob says, gives you the chance to make money later. Get back in with the crossovers. Yeah, crossovers, trend lines, chart studies, patterns. We've seen it all today. This has been fabulous. I just want to say again how much I appreciate everyone and your contributions. Pretty fantastic. All right, we've come to our normal close of our time, but we've got a few more, and we want to keep going. These are some ideas from Terry on the marijuana space here. And so check these graphs out. You can see the sort here, RSI times CI, still low relative safeties overall, below 1, but some of your top ones. We had a great discussion 3 weeks ago on Village Farms, and one of our members had a really nice gain, and the stock had extended, and we had lots of great suggestions for, you know, he was worried about a major pullback. So we showed a few ways that he could kind of protect himself, and he emailed me later that he did exactly that. And then when it dropped significantly, he had cash to buy back if he wanted to. All right. So, and Terry's one using that stochastics. Again, the video that I sent out on that, I know a lot of you got it and liked it, so that's great. We've covered quite a bit of what I showed here today. All right, so here's Jim, and I'm rushing a bit, and we'll come back to some of those in the watch list review. So Jim from Surrey is looking at EEFT, which is a really nice looking stock here. It's in the financial credit services area. And this is a weekly graph using the 3 and 8 EMA that Petra introduced us to at one of our international forums early on, with the 20 EMA as additional support. What we're looking at with the 20 and the 40 is just the slope. You know, is the slope to the upside or is it sloping down? And the crossovers are on the 3 and 8, and you've got 3 buy opportunities all the way up, and look how nicely they coincide with the new buy ratings. Anybody use those new buys? Richard, all these graphs are in your program. Lucine, Sandy, Rick, yep, using this all the time. Erwin says, nope, but should be. On a weekly graph, the 2 and 5, the 3 and 8 EMAs, boy, pretty fantastic. And then the slope of these others in support, pretty fantastic. Bruce is looking at DOO. Continuous slide last fall. The family's been selling shares. The earnings yield is now 8 and 9 because of the fall off in price. So he's watching this channel. And if we get a breakout, as long as we're not into a recession, because they sell skidoos and so on, this could be a good one. You can see it's been up there before. It got as high as $70, now down to 40. And there's your divergence with stochastics. We got a higher low in this recent stochastic. So that's a divergence suggesting a possible move up. And then on the US side, Bruce was looking at JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, so financial services, and then LGL and industrial. I couldn't find KSO, but these are right from the full stock report. Erwin sent me these, and he's sort of a co-leader of our Saskatchewan user group. They do a great job over there. And he likes CSU and GIB. It's been one of his 10 baggers, he says. So they're superior Canadian technology firms, and you could add BlackBerry now to your watch list as well. Ken's certainly watching BlackBerry. But on a 10-year graph, CSU, or this is 3-year weekly, CSU looks pretty good. Sort of a rounded bottom or a cup shape, and now the handle, and it's taking off. So you've got a cup with handle and it's taken off. GIB has just been more steady. It did come outside the channel here a little bit, and but you know, so not the time to buy up here, but good times to buy down here. And even now you might want to wait to buy, but if you own it, as Erwin does, you're in great shape. So good technology stocks, and then Microsoft and Cisco on the US side. Look at the value. Value of Cisco is still rising. Beauty. Break out of this channel. Good buying opportunity. Here, Microsoft, the value is rising, so I don't mind that it's overvalued as much. Prefer undervalued, but I don't mind as much, and it's rising nicely. Great suggestions. A-Shock looking at iRobot, going sideways now. It's actually kind of going down, so before you step in, you at least want to get above that trend line, right? It is coming up with a pennant here, so it's a downward triangle. So the break could be to the downside. We don't know, but we'll see. And then LW did break out of a similar pattern, and it broke to the upside. Here's that bearish climax top that we spoke about earlier. This is what we worry about sometimes. You can see this was the high of the day right here, and then it fell all the way down to here. So people started taking profit up here at the top, and people were buying because they thought it was a bargain. You know, it was time to get in, and they wound up paying a price because it fell all the way down. So be aware of those stocks that break too far out of a channel. And that's what Ed was worried about on PKI, worried if it goes too far above the channel. And Pessy had BABA. So again, looking at these Chinese stocks on the US side, and there's those moving averages. This is the 10, 20, and 40 EMAs, creating a nice slope and channel, but also have some on the RTs. So they work just as well on the RTs, the 10, 20, and 40. You can kind of see we're losing momentum here, and we're hitting a lower low here on RT, whereas price is still just kind of flat. So it's a bit of a caution there right now. And there's SLF. I wanted to show that because the insurance companies are all rising right now, paying unprecedented dividends, some of them 2% for Sun Life, and looking really good. Here's LUV from Chris P. He likes stochastics with the 12 and 1. I can get 12 and 3 in our database. But again, just suggesting we keep an eye on some of the airlines and LUV in particular. Boeing, I think Boeing is, I don't know what everyone here thinks, but I think they're a long ways away from resolving their issues. The lawsuits are just starting. You've got to be a very speculative investor to go with Boeing. I think personally, it has shown some resilience lately, but I would just be really cautious because the lawsuits are just coming. The first one was filed on Friday. All right. Yeah, Elaine says BA, too many negative news to come. That's what I'm worried about as well. Elaine says he sold due at 65, luckily. Yep, when you got to stop. Barry says no way on BA. No way on BA. Yeah, just be cautious. All right. For those of you that are new to VectorVest, there's your phone number to call if you want to give it a try. We do these monthly forums. We do weekly Q&As, both Canada and the US and our other countries. And I know you're going to love it if you give it a try. So there's who you call. All right, I'll let you know that we've got about 15 more minutes. If you wish, we can stay. If you have to go, it's a Saturday. The sun is shining, I understand. Well, hopefully we covered a lot of ground that's going to help you going forward. And I really want to thank everyone who submitted those great stock ideas. Rick is just noticing here, in 2017, TRZ did suspend their dividends. So that does happen with closed-end funds. So you got to be watchful. And again, why I suggested you got to call. Absolutely. And yeah, comments about the YouTube, people liking the YouTube. Thank you, Urema. Really appreciate that. And Eric had a Midas touch exit with that RT5 on his due. Saved him. All right. So just if I go back here and I put all the stocks that came into me into this watch list. Now some additional ones have come in. BHC from Monica, so one to watch. Shopify from Ken. TransAlta here, renewable energy. So just like ACI, the new one there. TransAlta in that space. XCI, ZDV. So VDY. And BlackBerry. So there's some other ones that you might want to look at. And, you know, when you sort by VST, you've given me really all some good stocks. You've got one marijuana stock that's a sell, and you've got some marijuana stocks that are just holds right now, gathering their footing. Even with a high RT, SPR, not a lot of history with it yet, so one to keep an eye on. And then on you go up the ladder. But there's HMMJ. So just like the industry group, you can view the ETF graph, and you're going to see where you've had some great entry points. So January 9th was a great entry point when price got above the 40-day moving average. It went from 1675 to 2365, and I guarantee you some of those marijuana stocks went up a lot faster and farther than that. So pulling back a bit and consolidating below the 40 days, so keep an eye on it. All right. But there's some good ones in there. And again, oops. Technical analysis, you can add whatever you like on there, but stochastics is a good one. Showing overbought and oversold, but the divergences also are really important. George Lane, he traded the divergences and that was about it. So here's a divergence on KNT, still rising beautifully, but here was a divergence where you had price kind of flattening out, and you might have thought, well, looks like the run is over, I'm going to get out. But stochastics was telling you that the best is yet to come. We had this divergence. Okay. Back here we had a divergence. Not a strong divergence actually as I look at it. Well, we did actually. Back here we had a divergence. This is the kind of pattern the founder of stochastics loves to trade, or loved to trade. Price is falling, stochastics hitting a higher low. It's an overlooked use of stochastics. Okay, just looking for any questions. If you asked a question earlier on, please do ask it now. Yeah, so Tim is asking about BYD.U, that's the Boyd group, and you know, this has been a long time great performer. It ran into some trouble here, obviously, but you draw your trend line on there and you see the pennant forming, and it just really took off. I mean, if you were conservative, you get in right there on the new buy, and it just took off. You had stochastics rising. And notice how long stochastic stays up there. That's the other thing I talked about in that video, is just when stochastics is above 50, it's considered bullish. The price movement is considered bullish. You don't always have to trade the crossovers, okay? Because you'll lose out on a lot of missed opportunities when you don't let your winners run. On the other side, you get below 50 like we did back here, you got to look for more caution and maybe get that 40-day moving average on there and start to take some profit. Now, BYD, if you held that for 10 years, you might not be selling even through this downturn and through this sell. You might have a much wider stop. We'll talk about that in the Toronto 2-day, because for 10 years you've made nothing but money and your dividends have gone up and up and up. So you might not want to give away a 16, 20% dividend yield on the money you invested back here. New buy, Victor, is when VectorVest gives a stock a new buy rating, as we see up here at the top. Okay, and you can search for those new buys if you like. Trends, new stuff. New buy rated stocks, so they were not a buy yesterday, day 2, but today they are a buy. And then look for patterns. You know, these are all the new buys from Friday. So once you see the new buys, look for patterns. So here's Crescent Point. Could be ready for a breakout. We'll see. But you don't want to just buy because it's a new buy. You still want to draw your trend lines or have some confirmation. I don't like the fact they've discontinued their dividend. It's usually not a good thing. Oh, dear. Jeff, the master retirement watch list will be part of the Toronto 2-day, absolutely. And it's part of our Investing for Retirement digital course as well. Tim says bad. I don't know if you mean bad on Crescent Point not doing its dividend or bad Badger Daylight, which has been on a pretty nice tear. A stock that I owned for a good run. All right, let's just see where there's some other stocks here that came in. So Ken wanted to look at BlackBerry. I thought I put it in the list here. Yep, there it is. So it's still got a weak relative safety and a weak earnings growth rate of 9.96 on the RV, which is another measure of value, long-term value. So be cautious with it, Ken, but let's have a look at the graph and the technicals. They are trying to become a leader in the technology space, and they've had some success, as you can see here. So they're trying to break and stay above this triple top here of resistance. We'll see if they can get there. But I would like to see a little bit more confirmation. But you know what? If you got in on the new buy, you're in at 1097, you're at 1252. That gives you a really nice cushion. RT crossed above 1, price crossed above the 40-day. Stochastics came from this low here. Nothing wrong with it. Bill says just broke the 200-day on the daily as well. So that can be a bullish sign as well. George is asking about getting to Ottawa, and it is on my agenda for sure. I just haven't been able to set a date, George, but I know the folks out there would love to have a representative get out there. And Alessandra says, no, come to Dallas. All right, well, listen, in Vancouver, Todd, I want to get out there again soon as well. I thought we had a user group leader there, but the plans kind of fell through. So we need to try again and get someone to run a regular monthly meeting, because they were very well attended and valuable. And so, all right. Next meeting. Expecting to have one in May, not in June, because I'll be in Toronto, but we hope to be meeting there. Oh, Alessandra says Glenn Tompkins going to Dallas on May 18th. You talked him into it. Pretty fantastic. All right. Well, thanks, everyone. I did push the record button, so this is being recorded. I want to say thank you again to Manny for all the help in the background. Thanks to all of you for attending, your questions and comments, your stock ideas. Also greatly appreciated. Pretty fantastic. Typically, I send the recording out, Sven, I schedule it today for tomorrow, but I do have to leave right after this webinar for a family gathering away from Lethbridge. So it'll probably be sort of mid-afternoon, Sunday or late afternoon before you get it. And then you'll get it again on Monday from GoToWebinar. It's an automatic. Thank you, Martin. This is another excellent investment of my time. I love to hear that. Just really want to make it fun and profitable for everyone. So that's what we aim for every time out. Thank you, Joan. Yeah, the curling has been just fantastic, and we'll be there on Sunday. All right. Thanks, everyone. Wishing you all the best and every success, and have a great rest of your weekend.